Good morning, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Sports Booth. I'm your host, Cade Bergstead, joined by my co-host, Ethan Dobbeck. Today, we're going to be giving you guys the long-awaited AFC over-under picks for wins on the 2021 season. We'll also be doing a quick news segment, including Mlb Divisional Race, along with the wildcard race. With that being said, let's take it to the booth. All right, to start things off, we're going to jump into a little Mlb Divisional Race wildcard segment for you guys. Starting off in the AL East, Tampa Bay still continues to lead by 9 games over the Red Sox, 9.5 over the Yankees, 11 over Toronto.
Who do you think is taking it?
I think Tampa is still the front runner there.
Yeah, I just don't see anybody catching them with 3 weeks left. It'll definitely be the Yankees and Red Sox fighting for that wild card spot. Those 2 wild card spots, though.
Yep. Moving on to the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox are dominating by 11.5 games over Cleveland.
Yeah, that's not a surprise.
Moving on to the AL West, Houston leads Seattle by 5.5 and Oakland by 6.5 games.
Wow, Oakland's really been slipping the last couple weeks.
Yeah, tanking hard. 4-6 over the last 10.
Wow. At one point, it was like 2 over the last 10.
Moving on over to the National League in the NL East, Atlanta continues to lead their division by 2.5 over Philly and 4 games over the Mets.
Who do you think takes that one?
Still think it's going to be Atlanta, though Philly's been the hot team lately, but I still have Atlanta.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Philadelphia creep into that. But Atlanta is going to have to hold strong. That one's definitely going to be one of the tight ones coming down to the end of the season. That one will be a lot of fun to watch.
Yep, and moving on to the NL Central, Milwaukee continues to dominate by 12 games over the Reds and 14.5 over the Cardinals.
You think they're taking it?
100%.
Yeah, me too. And what about the West?
Finally, in the West, San Francisco is now leading the Dodgers by 2 games and 16 over the Padres.
Yeah, that one's gonna come down to it. Who do those teams play in their last series of the season? The Giants play the Padres, which could be interesting.
And the Dodgers play the Brewers.
Ooh, okay. Both playing somewhat good teams. That'll be interesting coming down to that last little leg of the race. I mean, the Brewers will definitely try to be resting their main rotation for the playoffs so they can have them fully healthy and fully rested and ready to go. Padres are going to be fighting for a wild card spot, I believe, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean that'll be an interesting final weekend to see who takes that one. Definitely some games you'll want to watch. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on them.
Now for the wild card in the American League, Boston now leads by a half game over the Yankees, followed by
for the wild card 1 spot.
Yep, for the wild card 1 spot, Boston leads by a half game over the Yankees. And then first team out is the Toronto Blue Jays, 1.5 games back, followed by Seattle Mariners, 2.5 games back. The Oakland A's are 3.5 back, and then it drops down to Cleveland at 9 games back.
Okay.
Along with the Angels.
Really, Oakland, Seattle, Toronto, Yankees, and Boston.
Yep, still that same core.
Yep. And I mean, Mariners are slightly moving up it. Can't really pull much ground in their division, but they're slowly making progress. They were 5.5 games back a few weeks ago. Slowly crept up to, would you say, 2.5 games back now?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Toronto's been the hot team though, going 9-1 in their last 10.
No kidding. Hopefully they don't play the Yankees too many times, or they can play the Red Sox a few times. and let the Red Sox whoop on them. But if the Mariners are trying to get in that wild card 2 spot, then we don't want them beating up on each other and not making any movement in the wild card. Speaking from a Mariner fan's perspective.
Moving on to the National League wild card, the Dodgers have a 14-game lead in that one spot, and the San Diego Padres currently hold that second spot, only a half game above the Cincinnati Reds, 2.5 games above the Philadelphia Phillies, 3 games over the Cardinals, 4 games over the Mets, and then it drops off to 9.5 where the Cubs are.
Who do you think's taking that?
I think San Diego's going to clutch up just with Machado, Tatis.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the skill. They were right up there in conversation with the Dodgers at the beginning of the season. They were being talked about like that for a reason. Obviously, the Dodgers have a little bit more firepower, so they still got all the attention. But I mean, Tatis is a very good player, obviously. They've got a good rotation. They've got a good bullpen. I agree. I think they clutch it out, and I think they come away with that 2 spot.
Yeah, they just got to get some hot bats going. They did not help out Snell on the hill the other night. He was throwing a no-hitter through 6 innings, and they ended up losing 4-0 to the Cardinals, I believe.
Yep.
Well, that concludes the divisional and wild card race this week. Stay tuned to the Instagram for the weekly update.
Alrighty. Now, just before we move on to our sport bet segment, I just want to give you some brief NFL news ahead of week 1. One is that Jimmy Garoppolo confirms that he will be the starting quarterback in San Francisco come week 1. Not a whole lot of surprise there, but definitely just something to note down. Not time to play Trey Lance in your fantasy teams yet. And also that offensive guard for the Dallas Cowboys, Zach Martin, is out for week 1. So definitely a little worrisome for Zeke and for Dak Prescott back there without his best offensive lineman. But I think he'll be all right. I still think they're going to lose to Tampa Bay, though.
I agree.
Alrighty. So now as we move over into our sport bet segment, we are going to be giving you our AFC over-under win projection totals for every AFC team. We're going to start over in the AFC West. And we're going to start with the AFC West winners last year, the Kansas City Chiefs. Their MGM sport bet over-under is 12.5. Do you have them over or under that?
I have them over at 15-2.
Okay. I actually have them under at 12-5.
Wow. Who are their losses?
I've got them losing to Baltimore week 2.
I do as well.
I've got them losing to Tennessee week 7.
Okay.
They, for some reason, can't play in Las Vegas, so I've got them losing in Las Vegas this year.
Wow. All right.
I've got them losing in Los Angeles Chargers week 15. And then at Denver week 18, because I think they'll already have secured their division title by that point, and they're just going to play their scrubs, while Denver could potentially be fighting for a wild card spot. So they're going to be playing starters and trying to get a dub. That's my projections, at least. And that's the tough part, because if it wasn't for that last game, where I think the Chiefs will have already secured the division, and I think they're going to play their second stringers. If it wasn't for that, I would have them at over 12.5. I'd have them over 12.5.
So you have them beating Green Bay in week 9, so that's my other loss.
I do.
Okay.
So even if you take away the Las Vegas one and they still lose to Baltimore, Tennessee, the Chargers, Denver, and in your opinion, Green Bay, that's still 12-5 in my opinion. So, yep, I've got them under 12.5. Alrighty, we move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Their win total projection is at 9.5. Do you think they're going to go over or under that?
I have them just over at 10-7.
I've got the same exact thing. Who do you have them losing to?
Week 2 to Dallas.
Yep.
Week 3 to Kansas City.
Yep.
Week 5 to Cleveland.
Okay.
Week 10 to Minnesota.
Okay.
Week 11 to Pittsburgh. Week
Okay.
12 to Denver, at Denver.
Mhm.
And then week 15 to Kansas City again.
Okay. I've got them losing at Dallas, or against Dallas, at Kansas City, at Baltimore week 6, against New England week 8, against Pittsburgh week 11, at Denver week 12, at Cincinnati week 13, and then I think they go on a nice little streak there, winning 5 in a row to finish off the season, including a win over Kansas City week 15.
Wow.
So I mean, even if you give them that L to Kansas City, and they could easily beat Denver or Cincinnati or even New England or Dallas or Baltimore, they could easily beat any of those teams. So even if you give them a win on any of those, I see them going over the 9.5. I think they're a good young team.
I agree.
All right, moving to Las Vegas. Came in third in the division last year. Their win projection is 7. Do you have them going over or under that?
I have them under at 4-13.
Okay, I also have them under at 5-12. Who do you have them beating?
I have them beating Miami week 3, Cincinnati week 11, Denver week 16, and Indianapolis week 17.
Okay, I've got them beating Miami week 3, Chicago week 5, Kansas City week 10. That was the one game that I was talking about with the Chiefs earlier, how they always lose in Las Vegas. Or I guess it's been Oakland up until last year, but they struggle against the Raiders when they're playing at the Raiders for some reason. I've got them beating Cincinnati week 11 and then Denver week 16. But either way, I don't see a path for them over 7 wins.
Yep.
All right. Now the team, so I think the Raiders are going to be in the bottom of their division this year. Now moving on over to the Broncos. Last year they were in the cellar. This year they are projected a win total of 8.5. Do you think they're going to go over or under?
I have them under at 6-10. 6-11, my bad.
Okay. You've got them going under?
Yep, 6-11.
6-11. I've actually got them going over at 10-7.
Wow.
Who do you think they beat?
Of them beating the Jets in week 3.
You have that being their first win?
Yep.
Okay.
Vegas week 6, Philadelphia week 10, the Chargers week 12, Detroit week 14, and Cincinnati in 15.
Okay. I've got them beating the Giants week 1, Jacksonville week 2, the Jets week 3, Las Vegas week 6, the football team week 8, Philadelphia 10, the Chargers 12, Detroit and Cincinnati, and then like I was talking about with that final game against Kansas City, where Kansas City is already going to have it wrapped up. I've got them winning that one. I've got them going 10-7 this year.
Wow.
So just a little recap on the AFC West. The Chiefs, you had over or under?
Over.
Okay, I had them under. Chargers, over or under?
Over.
Same. Raiders, over or under?
Under.
Same. And Broncos, you had them
under.
And I had them over. All right, now we move on over to the AFC North. Last year, Pittsburgh won the division. This year, their win projection is only 8.5. One of the lower division winners from last year win projection. Do you think they're going over or under this?
I have them over at 11-6.
Yeah, I've got them going over at 11-6 as well. I think this is, if you're betting on an over-under for just a single team, I think this is, every week there's going to be one game, either in college football or NFL, where there's just odds where you're like, are these really the odds? I have a feeling that this is easily going to happen. And this is one of those things. I mean, Pittsburgh, Big Ben is only healthier this year than he was last year. They've added a running aspect to their offense in Najee Harris. They have an incredible defense still. I don't see any path for this team to not finish over 8.5, you know?
Yep.
Like, I mean, and their losses, I have them losing to Buffalo and Green Bay and Cleveland and Minnesota and Kansas City and Baltimore. So I have them losing to good teams. I don't have them winning any of those matchups. And if they just win one of those matchups, I have them at 12-5. But I do have them beating Baltimore once, Chicago, which is by no means a gimme, Seattle, which is by no means a gimme. So I definitely have them winning a couple that could be tough, but I still feel only in a couple. That still puts them at 9-8, which is still over 8.5. I don't see the path for them to finish below that. So if you bet, this is the one that I really recommend you put your money on.
Yep, I had all the same losses as you, except instead of Baltimore, I had Seattle as a loss.
Okay. So you have them beating Baltimore both times?
I do.
I'm curious what your Baltimore projections now. Baltimore finishing second in the division last year. The projection is 11. Let me actually take a look real quick. Go ahead and tell me what you think for 11. Tell me what you think for their record. I'm going to look at their actual odds real quick.
I have them just over at 12-5.
Just over at 12-5. Okay, who do you have them losing to?
I have them losing to the Chargers week 6, the Bengals week 7, Cleveland week 14, the Rams week 17, and Pittsburgh week 18.
Okay. I've got them losing to Minnesota week 9. I've got them winning their first 7 games.
Wow.
I've
I
got
could
them
definitely see that happening, though.
Yeah, I mean, really, their only tough challenge would be Kansas City week 2. Other than that, maybe the Chargers, who's in Baltimore, maybe Denver in Denver. All the others I see pretty easy for them. What do you like? What do you dislike about the Ravens?
I do have some question marks in the backfield there, though I do like Gus Edwards. I'll be interested to see how Le'Veon Bell does, being a new signee there. Though he didn't have much of a role in Kansas City, so I don't know if that's going to be the same in Baltimore, since Gus Edwards is the one. But, I mean, Lamar's an incredible athlete. Lamar does what Lamar does. I could definitely see them winning those 7 games, like you said.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I couldn't find it. All I'm seeing is at 11. But you got them going 12-5, so it doesn't matter. I've got them, like I said, going 11-6, losing to Minnesota, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and the Rams. I don't wait. That's 12-5. Just kidding. I've got them 12-5. Yeah, I've got them at the over. Just kidding. Ha. All right, 12-5. Yeah, I've got them over 11. All right. Now moving on to the third place team, the second wild card team from last year, the Cleveland Browns. Win projection total of 10.5. What do you think?
I have them over also at 12-5.
Okay, I've got them 11-6. Who do you have them losing to?
I have them losing to Kansas City week 1, Minnesota week 4, Arizona week 6, Baltimore week 12, and Pittsburgh week 17.
Okay. Yeah, I've got them beating Kansas City, or losing to Kansas City, losing to the Chargers week 6. I've got them beating Minnesota week 4. So even if that's flip-flopped, it's +1, -1. I've got them losing to New England week 10, Baltimore week 12, Green Bay week 16, and Pittsburgh week 17. Alrighty, and now to the seller team, who is also my prediction for the seller team this year. In their division, Cincinnati Bengals. Their win projection total is at 6.5. Do you think they're going to be over or under that?
I have them under at 4-13.
4-13? All right.
Yep.
So do I. Who do you have them beating?
I have them beating Jacksonville week 4, Detroit week 6, Baltimore week 7, and the Jets week 8.
Okay. I've got them beating Minnesota week 1, Detroit week 6, the Jets week 8, and the Chargers week 13. Okay. But yeah. So Cincinnati. We both have them at the under. So just to recap on the AFC North, Pittsburgh, their win projection total is 8.5. Cade has them at
11-6.
in the over. I've got them over as well at 11-6. Baltimore win projection total is 11. Cade has them
Over at 12-5.
same here. So same exact records for Pittsburgh and Baltimore so far, and it doesn't change. Cleveland at a total of 10.5. Cade.
Over at 12-5.
Okay. Mine's 11-6, but I could easily see them getting that 12-5 as well. Either way, over 10.5 for both of us. And lastly, Cincinnati under or 6.5 is their win projection total, and Cade has them
Under at 4-12 or
and I've
4-13.
I've got them under at 4-13 as well. Alrighty, moving on to the AFC South. Starting with the AFC South winners from last year, the Tennessee Titans. Win projection total of 9. Do you think they go over or under?
I have them over at 14-3.
Over at 14-3. Okay, I've got them over at 12-5. Pretty easy on this one. This is another one kind of like Pittsburgh. I would slam the over on this if you were betting, just because I don't see a path for them under 9. I've got them winning a couple big games. I've got them beating San Francisco. I've got them beating the Rams. I've got them beating, who else do I have them beating? Miami, who's not going to be an easy game. But I also have them losing to New Orleans, who may not be that good this year. Seattle, who you never know. New England, who you don't know what you're going to get this year. And then Pittsburgh, who knows what's going to happen there. So there's definitely going to be some throw-up games. I don't see them finishing under 9 wins by any means, though, especially considering they get to play Indianapolis, Houston, and Jacksonville twice. Okay, moving on to the second place team from last year, the Indianapolis Colts. They've got a win projection total of 9. Do you think they go over or under that?
I have them way under at 4-13.
Yeah, I also have them way under. Kind of like Tennessee and Pittsburgh, I would be slamming the under on Indianapolis. I don't think Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. I don't think he's going to get it done there. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to get a decent workload, but not enough to win his team games. I mean, he doesn't have that Christian McCaffrey factor. And even then, Christian McCaffrey can only do so much. I mean, his team hasn't won a whole lot because of him solely. I mean, if they did, they would be better than a third place team at best for the past 4 years, you know?
Yep.
So I just don't see any path for them to get over 9 wins.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that at 9.
I know. Alrighty, third place team from last year. My prediction for the last place team this year, Houston. Sorry, their projection is 3.5 on some money lines. We've got 4 here, so we're just going to say 3.5 just so you have a clear line of over-under.
The line really doesn't matter for me. I have them under at 0-17.
Yeah, me too. Just in all reality, I don't see this team winning a game this year. And if they do, I see them maybe winning 1, maybe 2, maybe. But heck, they still have an extra win there that they could have, and you would still be fine getting the under. But still, at the same time, I just don't see this team winning this year.
I
There's
totally
just a
agree.
lot of bad vibes all throughout all throughout Houston, and I just don't see anything happening there this year. Alrighty, and now to the last year's last place in the NFL, worst team last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Definitely got a little bit of improvement this year, drafting Trevor Lawrence in the first round. Unfortunately, their other first round pick, Travis Etienne, injured himself with a Lisfranc injury in his foot, so he will be out for the year. But they have still upgraded that offense quite a bit, adding Marvin Jones. They've got DJ Chark still. They've got Laviska Shenault. They've got a lot of weapons this year and a very good quarterback to finally back that up. So their offense is going to be very good. They haven't done much on their defensive side. Their win projection total is 6.5 this year. Do you have them over or under?
I have them just over at 7-10.
Okay, I've actually got them pretty easily over at 8 and 9. But I could see 7 and 10 happening. But their wins are not against teams that I think are going to be very good this year. Their wins are against Week 1, Houston, Arizona, who I don't think is going to be very good this year, Cincinnati, who I don't think is going to be very good, Indianapolis, who we just covered, who I don't think is going to be very good. So I do have them beating San Francisco, which is a toss-up, but I do have them winning that one. Then I've got them beating Houston again, the Jets again, and then Indianapolis again. So I think they're going to be the second place team in this division, and I think once they finally add some defensive pieces to their team next year, I think this team could be a very good competition for the Tennessee Titans in fighting for that divisional title. And I think we will finally have a good division to watch down there in the AFC South.
Yep.
Alrighty. Recapping the AFC South real quick. Tennessee, win projection total of 9. Do you have them over or under?
Over at 14-3.
Okay, me as well, only at 12-5. Indianapolis, over or under 9?
Under at 4-13.
Yep, I've got them under at 5-12. Houston, over or under 3.5?
Under at 0-17.
Yep, same. Don't see them winning a game. Jacksonville, over or under 6.5?
Over at 7-10.
Okay, I've got them over at 8 and 9. Alrighty. Now moving on to the AFC East. Starting with the division winners from last year, the Buffalo Bills. Win projection total of 11. Over or under?
I have them over at 14-3.
Okay, I've got them over at 13-4. Their losses come into Kansas City, Tennessee, Tampa Bay, and then they're going to have the division secured, so I expect them to rest their players because they might be playing for that number, or there is no number 2 seed. They might be playing for that 1 seed. I haven't even considered that, actually. I could change some things for that Kansas City pick, in my honest opinion. Because if you're fighting for the single bye that is a lot on the line.
Yep.
And as this would have it played out, if Kansas City plays their starters the final week, well, I guess if Buffalo did too, then I would have Buffalo at 14-3 in Kansas City. So either way, I've got Buffalo over 11 pretty easily. But I'm going to change something real quick. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to change the Kansas City Chiefs to over. Because I think there will be a final week surge for that final bye spot from multiple teams. Buffalo, Baltimore could be up there. Cleveland could be up there. Pittsburgh could be up there. The Chiefs could be up there, or will be up there. There could be a competition for that final, or for that one bye spot. So I'm going to change Kansas City to the over real quick. Buffalo stays at the over, but that doesn't change anything for the Broncos. I still have them at 9-8, which is over their projection total of 8.5. All right, sorry about that little sidetrack real quick. Second place last year, Miami Dolphins, projected this year at 9.5. Do you have them over or under?
You're not gonna like this, but I have them under at 6-11.
Wow, not projecting a lot for Tua, huh?
Nope. I just don't think Miami's gonna get it done this year.
Well, good for you. I completely disagree because I've got them winning it pretty handedly at 11-6. Also getting that wild card spot. Finally, that hard-earned wild card spot. Who do you have them beating, I should ask?
I have them beating the Colts week 4, Atlanta week 7, Houston week 9, Carolina week 12, the Giants week 13, and the Jets week 15.
All right, interesting.
The only other win I could see them having is Vegas week 3 and potentially Jacksonville week 6, which would still be under for me.
You don't think they could beat New England
Nope.
once?
I do not think so. I think New England's going to be solid this year, and you'll see that with my next projection.
Well, I mean, trust me, dude, I'm as much of a Mac Jones supporter and hopeful as the next guy, but they're going to take it a little slower, and they don't have the best offensive weapons, regardless of what you want to claim. I mean, Damian Harris is not by any means a top, skilled running back in the NFL. Nelson Aguilar or whoever that other receiver is, Jacoby Myers, they're not by any means even in the range of top 5 tiers of wide receivers in the NFL. There's just not a lot. I think he will have a good season. I think their offense will be better than it was last year. And on some days, I think it'll be very good. I also have them projected pretty good, but I don't think that they're just going to boom right out of the gate like you're going to tell us in your projection. I think Miami's got one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think they're going to have a much more explosive offense than they had last year. I think Tua's going to finally get comfortable. They've got skilled receivers in Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller. They've got a good tight end in Mike Gesicki. They've got a good running back in Myles Gaskin. All of which are better than any piece on the supporting cast of Mac Jones. Their defenses, New England might have the slight edge, but Miami's defense is extremely good, which is something that seems to be forgotten about. I've got Miami going 11-6 this year over the 9.5. So now we're going on to New England. What do you have them at? Their projection total is 9.5. You're obviously expecting big things from these guys.
I have them at 12-5.
Oh my god! What?
12-5. I have them losing to Tampa Bay week 4, the Chargers week 8, Cleveland week 10, Buffalo week 13, Jacksonville week 17.
So you think they beat Indianapolis, which is fair. I agree with that.
Easy money all day.
Did you say you only think they beat you think they beat the Buffalo Bills once?
Yep, in week 16.
Week 16? You don't think they beat, let's see, New Orleans?
Nope. I think that's a pretty even matchup, but I take New England all day in that matchup.
I mean, that's what I meant to say. You don't think they lose to New Orleans? Dallas?
Nope.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've got them at either 8-9 or 7-8. Really depending on that last game, but either way, I've got them under 9.5. I think they're going to be good. They need to draft a couple offensive receivers that are good, or maybe just trade for them because they can't draft receivers worth crap there in New England. But once they do that and give Mac Jones a little more skill to work with, I mean, yes, he's an extremely good quarterback, but look what he was working with at Alabama. He was working with uh, Jerry, or I guess he didn't play in season with Jerry Jeudy, but he was playing with um, Jalen Waddle. He was playing with Devontae Smith, the Heisman winner. He was playing with John Mechie, the current standout down there in Alabama. Like, he was playing with extremely good talent who is better than any receiver he's playing with now. I just don't see him winning more than 9 games this year. I would love it if he did, because I'm supporting for him and I'm going for him. I think they were in a rebuilding year last year. They didn't know which direction they wanted to go in. They found their direction they want to go in this year when they cut Cam Newton and promoted Mac Jones to the starter and gave him the full reins of the offense. But this type of thing takes time to grow. I mean, they have a very specific system under Bill Belichick. It takes time to learn. It takes time to adapt to. I mean, Tom Brady didn't come out guns blazing in his first couple seasons. I mean, it took some time, but they finally, once he really started getting smart with the system, that's when he started dominating the league. And I think that can happen and will happen with Mac Jones. I just don't see it happening this year with the weapons that he has.
All I gotta say for you is just watch. Just watch.
Okay, I will. And when they lose week 1 to Miami, I will come back on Monday and laugh. Alrighty, moving on to the last place team in the AFC now, the New Jersey Nets. Wow, that hasn't been around for a while. The New York Jets, who play in New Jersey, ironically. Win projection total of 6. Do you have them over or under?
I have them under at 3-14.
Okay, I've got them right at 6. So if the betting line is 6.5, I would go under. If it is 5.5, I would go over, because I see them winning these games right here. Week 2 against New England. Week 7 at New England.
Not
Week
a chance.
11, Miami.
I have
Week
that as
12,
well.
Houston. Week 13, Philadelphia. And week 16 at Jacksonville.
Yeah, I had Miami week 11, Houston week 12, and Jacksonville 16 as well.
All right. Well, geez. Let's just recap the AFC East real quick. Buffalo win projected of 11, over under.
Over 14-3.
Yep, 13-4 here. Miami 9.5. You've got them
largely under at 6-11.
I've got them perfectly fine over 11-6. New England, you've got them at 9.5. You've got them
at a dominating 12-5.
Yeah, okay. I've got them under at either 8-9 or 7-8. And then the Jets, win total of 6. What you got?
I got them below at 3-14.
I've got them 6-11. That's what I meant to say the first time, not 6-10. I've got them 6-11. So if the betting line's 5.5, over. If it's 6.5, under. But yeah.
Alrighty, now we are going to do our little bet pick segment for both the NFL and the NCAA, including our lock of the week, 50-50 shot of the week, and upset pick of the week. Starting off in the NFL, who's our lock?
Our lock of the week is going to be Baltimore covering the 4.5 spread over the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Moving on to the 50-50. What's the call?
We've got the Los Angeles Chargers covering the spread of 1 point over the Washington football team.
And finally, the upset.
We've got the New York Jets in the money line over the Carolina Panthers.
Alrighty, you heard it here. And now on to college football. Who is the lock of the week?
Our lock of the week is going to be Minnesota covering the spread of, I didn't write it down. That was silly of me. But we've got them covering the spread over Miami, Ohio. I believe it was 19. Something like that, 19
Oh
and a half
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Minnesota 19.5 over Miami, Ohio.
Yep. So we've got Minnesota covering the spread of 19 and a half over Miami. And yeah.
How about the 50-50 shot?
50-50, we've got Ohio State covering the 11 and a half over Oregon. Honestly, this was damn close to being our lock. I think Ohio State's going to handle Oregon just fine.
Totally agree. And finally, the upset in college football.
We've got in the game of the week, Iowa winning in the money line over Iowa State. Iowa is currently the underdog. But that will definitely be a good game. That is where College Game Day is this weekend. So make sure you tune into that because that one will be a fun one to watch. The Midwest boys like to get down and dirty. Alrighty, but that wraps up our picks for this week. Make sure you guys tune in next week to see how they went. Hopefully, you guys bet a few of them yourselves, win yourself some money. But make sure you tune in next week to see how those went, as well as our picks for next week. And as always, after review, the booth says it's good. Have a good one, you guys.